You are perfect just the way that you are. Every single one of you is an original. You were made this way on purpose, and you were made this way for a very special reason. So many INFJs grow up being told that we're wrong, that we need to be different. We need to be more talkative, more open, more friendly, more outgoing, and be less quiet, less sensitive, less empathetic, less reflective, less idealistic. We get this idea early on in our lives that we're broken, that we're not okay just the way that we are, and we feel even worse because we don't know how to fix this supposed brokenness. Many of us spend years trying to fix it. What's the one thing that I can change so I can focus on things that I can control? We focus on things like education, career, our weight or our appearance, our income. I spent years focused on these things, hoping that they would fix the feeling that I had of being empty inside, of knowing that I was living a life that everyone else wanted for me, but I didn't feel like was good for me or was right for me. We get obsessed with being good at life, even though we feel miserable inside. And we don't know how to fix that feeling. We're quietly suffering while trying to act like we have everything together. It's time to drop the act. It's time to admit that everything is not okay, that you don't want to be this version of yourself, this person that everyone else thinks you should be. It's time to figure out who you really are and focus on the things that are important to you. It's time to be wholly and unapologetically you. If this sounds like you, I made my signature program just for you. If you need more confidence, more self-love, more boundaries, more happiness, more abundance in your life, then you need this program. It's time to embrace who you are and be confident in putting yourself out in the world to try new things and to live the life that you want to live. Join me for this 12-week program that's made especially for you. Plain and simple, This Is Me changes lives, and it's officially open for enrollment right now. But it won't be open for enrollment very long, so check it out right now. Go to infjwoman.com/thisisme for details. Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you. Hi there, welcome to a special episode of The Quiet Ones. This week I'm doing a series of free workshops called Here for This. They are all about finding your true self as an INFJ, finding self-love and confidence, and how to break the habits that make up most of your life, those habits that keep you feeling stuck and hopeless, and how to help you find your true self. On today's episode, I'm sharing one of the workshops because I want to help you as much as I possibly can. I started this podcast and my blog, which is called INFJ Woman, because I felt broken and messed up, and I realized that that wasn't true at all. So many of us INFJs have been told that we are wrong our whole lives, and we take that to heart and it becomes a part of our core beliefs. That belief repeats itself in our heads over and over again, which hurts our confidence and our self-love. So I created these workshops to help you see this pattern and to learn how to fix it. You deserve better. You are an absolutely wonderful and amazing person with a darling personality. I'm here to help you create your best self so that you can shine for all of the world. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that you can still join these workshops live. Go to infjwoman.com/hereforthis to get access right now. So I hope that you guys are getting like a ton of value out of these workshops. I've had so much positive feedback. So many people have been sending me messages. I see so many people doing the homework. And it's great to see that you guys are getting lots of value and are enjoying the workshops. As we get started here, I wanted to remind you about the bonuses for enrolling in This Is Me. They're only available, well, I'm probably going to extend them just to like the end of this workshop and this afternoon so that you just have just a little bit more time, because I know there are a couple of people who had some questions about them. So the first one is the INFJ personality course. This is like a self-paced course that will walk you through all aspects of your personality. It'll help you learn more about the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator test. It'll help you learn how to type other people in your life. So you'll understand yourself better, and then you'll understand everybody else around you a lot better. And that will help you to communicate with them better. When you get into arguments, it'll help you to understand where they're coming from. When you're planning things, it will help you understand like why people plan things differently. There's so many different ways that it helps you. Just really just improve all of your relationships, and not just like with your significant other, but with your parents, your siblings, with your coworkers, your boss, with your friends, anybody really that you're close to, that you spend a lot of time with. It will help you. The more that you understand them, especially like, you know, the introvert extrovert thing is a really big thing, but each one of the letters is one of those really big things, right? If you have somebody in your life who is a perceiving personality type, and, you know, since we're judging personality types, there's such a big difference in how you make decisions and how you organize your life, that once you can understand where they're coming from, then your communication just changes. It's just like night and day. Hi, Jackie. I am so glad that you're ready for a change today. It's good that you woke up ready for a change on Friday, because, you know, most Fridays it's like, ugh, why didn't I take the day off? Like, that's usually my thought on Friday. I heard that today too is National Coffee Day, and it was kind of a weird thing happened this morning. The Starbucks that I go to, I was just like not feeling it today, and so when I went to Starbucks, it's usually insanely busy. But they're usually pretty good at like getting you your coffee, and I order mine on the app like 15 minutes before I get there because it takes me that long to drive there. And when I got there, I had to wait for my coffee, which kind of irritated me. And then they handed me an iced coffee, and I'm like, I don't drink iced coffee. And the guy's like, no, you don't. You come in here every day and you get a hot coffee. And I'm like, yeah. So then I had to wait for it again. But he's like, do you want this one? Because we're just going to throw it away. And I'm like, okay. So I had 2 coffees today. I guess that's what it took to get me going. Anyway, I was talking about the bonuses. If you enroll in This Is Me, the first one is the INFJ personality course. And then the second one is I'm doing a 3-day virtual retreat that's all about self-love. That is at the end of this month. I can't believe it's October already, but it's at the end of this month, and you'll get that one. It's included if you purchase This Is Me. I'm probably going to extend it to like just a couple of more hours um, after we get done with today's workshop. So the INFJ personality course is $1,000 value, and then the self-love retreat is, I think it's $200 value. So that's an extra $1,200 on top of the 12-week program already. So if you're interested, make sure that you go and sign up. The website is infjwoman.com/thisisme. All right, so it's 12:04, so let's go ahead and get started. I want to do a little bit of a review about scarcity because there was a little bit of confusion yesterday. So basically, there are two different kinds of scarcity. There's actual scarcity, which we're seeing a lot of these days. A better example of that is I was just talking about how I go to Starbucks every single morning. I usually order a mocha latte and I get peppermint syrup in it. But for some reason, Starbucks hasn't had peppermint syrup for like 3 months now. And I even asked the guy this morning, I'm like, listen, you need an ETA on peppermint syrup. And he's like, I know. And we even got a bunch of the syrups back that we didn't have for a while, but not peppermint. And I'm like, dude, is there like nobody else who makes peppermint syrup? He's like, we just use the one supplier and they just don't have it. So actual scarcity is like a supply problem, right? There isn't enough of something that you want. It's literally not there. The other kind of scarcity is a belief that there's not enough for you. And this is a scarcity mindset, right? And this doesn't usually apply to actual things, but it can affect how you have or whether or not you have actual things in your life. So we were talking about, yesterday I gave the example of if you buy a red car or you start thinking about buying a red car, then you start looking for red cars and you see red cars everywhere, right? If you have a scarcity mindset, it works the same way. If you're looking for scarcity, you'll see scarcity every single place that you look. It's just always there. If you flip your mindset though into looking for abundance, you'll be looking for it everywhere and you'll see it everywhere. And the majority of us, we live with a scarcity mindset because of the things that we're told when we're young, because of how we grow up and the beliefs that we have, right? So if your mom always told you, we can't afford it, I don't have the money, then you get that belief in your head. And it doesn't usually revolve around whether you actually have money in your bank account or just the belief that you have. So instead of stopping to analyze, can I afford this or not, we just go straight to, no, I can't afford it, which is a belief. And I'll give you an example of that. So say your friend comes to you and they say, hey, I have this really cool concert ticket. It's $800. Do you want to go with me? It's an amazing experience. It's right up front. It's going to be so cool. Like, you have to go to this show. And you automatically just say, I can't afford it. And you don't even think about whether or not you can afford it. You don't spend $800 on concert tickets. You've never spent $800 on concert tickets. And you're like, I don't spend $800 on concert tickets. I'm not that kind of a person. I don't have the budget to spend $800 on concert tickets. I can't believe that you do. That's insane. What's wrong with you that you spend $800 on concert tickets? You know that you have a budget, right? And you stick to your budget, and $800 is not in your savings account. It's not in your checking account. And you're like, no, I would never spend that much on concert tickets. That's completely ridiculous. At the same time, if something happened to you, if your hot water heater broke or your air conditioner broke in the summertime or your heater in the wintertime, and it cost $800 to fix it, you would be able to figure out how to get $800 to fix it. Because you know you can't live without hot water. You're like, I'm not taking cold showers indefinitely, right? That's not okay. I can't wash my dishes in cold water. That doesn't work. I can't live in Boston with it being 20 degrees in the wintertime without a heater. That's completely unacceptable. I deserve better, right? So you're going to figure out how to find $800, even if it's not sitting in your checking account, even if it's not sitting in your savings account, you'll figure out how to pay for it. So there's a belief that you deserve to have hot water. There's a belief that you deserve to have a heater in the wintertime. But we don't have that same belief when it comes to taking care of ourselves spiritually and emotionally. It's different. And a lot of that comes back to, I don't deserve it. I'm not enough. I don't deserve to take care of myself. Now, don't get me wrong, there are literally people who can barely pay their rent. I've been in that situation a few times, so I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to live with all of your credit cards maxed out, with zero money in your bank account, and, barely being able to pay your rent. I get that. But I've also been in this situation more times than not where I can afford things, but without even thinking about it, I say that I can't afford them. And when it really came down to it, I actually could afford it. I just didn't believe that I deserved it. So we talked about energy a few times, right? And when you think about the energy chart that I shared with you, scarcity is at the same level of energetic vibrations as fear. So living in a scarcity mindset is the same as living in fear. It's a low vibration energy. And we talked about how your body gets addicted to certain chemicals and certain beliefs. Scarcity is one of those beliefs that becomes a habit and you get addicted to. It's just something that you've always believed, and so you just always continue to believe it. You just keep going there. If you want to change to a different mindset, though, you have to be willing to change, right? You have to be willing, you have to be open, you have to be willing to look for something different. Another example is, a lot of us are taught that there's only so much in the world, right? There's only so much available. And a lot of people apply this to money too. Like, there's only so much money available. So if people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, who is the owner of Amazon, the founder of Amazon, if they have millions and billions of dollars, then that means that there's less money available for me. But that's a limiting belief, right? And if you watch the news and you play the politics game, you know that they have that same belief and they sell that to people so that you're in that fear mindset, right? It's a limiting belief. Just because one person is successful or 100 people are successful, that doesn't mean that you have less of a chance of being successful. Just because several people have millions or billions of dollars, that doesn't mean that you have less of a chance of having millions or billions of dollars even. It's a limiting belief and it's not true. When you flip that belief and you say, there is plenty of money, all I have to do is work hard to get it, then you start seeing abundance everywhere. You start seeing opportunities. You start looking for it, right? And just like we talked about red cars, you see red cars, you're looking for red cars, all of a sudden there's all these red cars, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize there were so many red cars. When the number of red cars hasn't changed. It's just that you're looking for them. When you have a mindset of scarcity, you see scarcity everywhere, right? But the belief reinforces what you see, and what you see reinforces the belief. And that just keeps your habit going and going and going, because it's like, it's a cycle, right? You're looking for something, you see it, it reinforces. The only way to change, though, is to be willing to see something different, to be willing to see things differently, right? To be open. Just like we talked about, the way to change your energy is to be willing. You have to go through the neutral energy in order to get to the positive energy. Another question that I have for you is, are you open to receiving? Because a lot of times when it comes to abundance, that's the real problem, is that we're not open to receiving. When somebody gives you something, even if it's something small, are you able to receive it? Even if it's just somebody giving you a compliment, if somebody says to you, "Oh my goodness, your blouse is so beautiful. It really makes you look amazing." Do you smile and say, "Thank you. I really appreciate you giving me that compliment"? Or do you say, "Oh, this old thing, I got it at Target. It was on clearance"? Most people say the second one, right? We make excuses, and we make excuses that diminish the compliment because we don't feel like we receive it. We don't feel like we deserve it, right? So we don't even know how to receive it. Maybe you don't get compliments a lot. Maybe you're just like, "No, that's not true. I can't take that from you." Another thing, if you have friends or family members, when you go out to eat, do you let them pay for the bill? Or do you grab it from them and say, "No, no, 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 it's on me, it's on me"? Or, "Oh, why don't we just go Dutch? Like, why don't we just each pay for our own thing?" A lot of us, we're not open to receiving compliments. We're not open to receiving gifts. It feels weird. It's uncomfortable. And especially as INFJs, because we're such people pleasers, we're so good at taking care of everybody else. That's what we're used to. That's our habit. We just give and give and give and give, and then we get stuck in this position that's like, why does nobody ever give anything to me? And a lot of times it's like, it's this struggle, this internal struggle of like, why does nobody understand me? Why does nobody give anything to me? Why is nobody ever there for me? Are you even open to receiving if somebody did give something to you? If they offered to help you, would you accept their offer? If they offered you advice, do you graciously accept their advice? If they give you compliments, do you accept their compliment? Or do you make excuses? Do you diminish the compliment? The underlying cause of the problems, everything, it all comes back to your belief in yourself. You have to be able to change those beliefs so that you can change your life, so that you can have the things that you want. The root of all of it, really, is that you don't believe that you deserve it. You have to change that belief. One of the biggest things that I can tell you is that when you're open to receiving, everything changes. But you have to be open. And it seems like this really weird thing, right? It seems like, well, of course, if somebody wants to give me $1 million, of course I'm going to take it, right? But if you can't accept little things, how are you going to accept big things? If you can't even accept somebody saying, "I love that shirt on you, it looks great." How would you accept somebody giving you $1 million? And abundance doesn't just mean money, right? Money is one of the things that a lot of us get hung up on. It's one of those things that we really don't believe that we receive, that we deserve, right? But there's abundance in a lot of other things too. It could be love, especially self-love. And there's a lot of people who say that if you don't love yourself, you won't be able to love anybody else. And I used to hate that saying. I used to like get mad at people who said that. But the more that I've learned about self-love, the more that I agree with this saying. Because there are different kinds of love and there are different ways to show love. And if you've never learned how to be loved to begin with, that's the problem that you have with self-love. Nobody really ever showed you how to love yourself, and so you don't know how. And so then when somebody else comes into your life and says, I'm going to show you love, you're like, what is this? This is weird. This isn't how my family operates. This isn't what I'm used to. This is really what you do? Like, you just give people stuff and you don't ask for anything in return? Like, are you sure this is right? Because it doesn't feel right. It feels really weird. It's a process, right? So you have to learn how to love yourself before you can even be willing to accept love from other people. Love is just one example, though. There are a lot of other things that you can have abundance of. You can have abundance of happiness. You can have abundance of joy. And I've talked a little bit about happiness and joy. I kind of use them interchangeably. The way that I look at joy is like little things that bring you little bits of happiness throughout the day. And so that's like joy, but happiness is more of an overall feeling of your life, like a feeling of satisfaction from day to day. You can have an abundance of compassion as well. You can have an abundance of friendliness. There's a lot of things that's out there, but again, you just have to train your brain to look at those things. You have to get out of the habit of looking for the scarcity and the fear. So I want to ask you a question. Tell me in the comments, how much money, if somebody said, I'm going to give to you any amount of money, how much do you feel like you would be willing to accept? How much do you feel like you deserve? Type it in the chat for me. And I'm going to wait until you type some of them in the chat. So if you're like, I don't know if I'm going to participate, I'm always one of those people who's like, I don't know if I'm going to participate. And I know that Facebook is on a bit of a delay. So every time I'm doing these workshops, I'm waiting for answers, and then it takes a couple of minutes to get the answers. Instagram does the same thing too. When you're on an Instagram live and you type an answer in the chat or you type a question in the chat, it takes a couple of minutes almost for the person who's doing the live video to see it. So there's a bit of a delay that feels really, really weird. It feels really weird. So how willing are you to live an abundant life? If somebody said, I'm going to give you any amount of money, how much money would you want? Angela says $150,000. You feel like that's enough? $150,000? When I was asked this question, I was like, well, I think I would be good with $100,000. Like $100,000 a year. I feel like I would be good with that. If you would have asked me this question 5 years ago, I would have said something like $50,000 or $60,000 because that was more than what I made. And I thought, well, if I just had a little bit more, then I could pay my rent a little bit easier. If I just had a little bit more, I could go out to eat a little bit more often. If I just had a little bit more, I could buy a nicer car. Jackie says, I'd accept just because I'm altruistic at times. Maybe at most like $500. But there's somebody in front of you somebody like Jeff Bezos, and they're like, how much money do you want? I have like billions of dollars. How much do you want? It's funny that when we think about how much money we deserve, we go to like the minimum amount that we would need to survive, right? But the question is like, how much do you want? And we go to this minimum amount. Nobody said like $1 million. Nobody said $1 billion. Nobody said, you know what, if I could have as much money as I wanted, I would get a printing press of money and I would just sit it in my living room, or maybe like have a whole different building on my property, and I could just go print as much money as I wanted anytime. When you're talking about a scarcity mindset, having just enough or barely just enough, that's a scarcity mindset. That's the belief that I don't deserve a printing press of money. That's too much. I don't even deserve $1 million. I can't even fathom what $1 million is. What I deserve is just enough. Just barely enough to pay the bills. Just barely enough to get by. Maybe a little bit more than just that. Having an abundant mindset, though, is saying, you know what? $10 million. $10 billion. You know what? Let's put that printing press in my living room, okay? I need access to it all the time. Maybe I'll have like 10 living rooms, and maybe each one of them will have a printing press. So not only can I have an unlimited amount of money, but my family can have an unlimited amount of money, and my kids can too. A lot of times when we talk about it this way, people go straight to, that's really selfish. You really don't need that much money, right? What are you going to do with that much money? But if you think about, a lot of times, in fact, the majority of people, their purpose in life is to help other people, especially as INFJs, right? We have this extroverted feeling, and we want to be able to make people's lives better. We want to help people in any way that we can. Even if it's just your family or your friends or your kids, you connect with them so well that you want to be able to help them. When you have just enough money, how many people can you help? Maybe the people that are around you. Maybe if you see somebody on the street, if you're one of those people who like gives money to people with the signs. I'm not one of those people, but that's okay. If you see somebody like on Facebook, they have those fundraisers. You're like, I can give you $10. That's cool. Maybe I can skip coffee tomorrow because I have just enough, and I can give you the $6 that I usually pay for coffee. But if you had $1 million, you could give somebody more than $6, right? If you had a printing press of money in your house, you could give somebody as much as they needed, right? You could help a whole lot more people. So the more money that you have, the more that you can give, right? It doesn't have to be selfish. It's just that we've been conditioned to believe that having an abundance of something, especially like money, is selfish. It's like you don't need that. And there's this voice in your head that says, no, you don't need that. You need just enough. You don't need too much, because too much makes you a bad person. All those people who have tons of money, they're bad people, right? You don't want to be one of those people. You want to have just enough. That's fine. But that voice in your head tells you that about more than just money. It tells you that about love, about friendliness, about compassion, about self-love, about confidence. You don't want too much confidence, right? You'll be one of those arrogant people that nobody likes. You don't need confidence. You need just enough to get by. That belief, though, it holds you back. It keeps you down. One of my friends, who I absolutely adore, she has just enough. She has just enough confidence to have a job that she hates. She has just enough money to pay her bills. Just enough.
And I asked her, I ask her frequently, are you really okay with just enough? Don't you want something more? Don't you have any hopes or dreams? Isn't there something that you're reaching for? And she's like, no, I work 60 hours a week because I have to work overtime to pay all of my bills. And I'm just tired and I don't want to do anything else. She didn't go to college, which is fine. Not everybody who is successful goes to college. But she doesn't have any hopes or dreams. There is nothing really that she wants to change. She wants to lose some weight, but she's just fine staying in the same job, doing the same thing, barely getting by. And to me, my parents are like that too. So it's very familiar to me. But it's also really, really sad for me because I don't want to just get by. I don't want to barely survive. I don't want it to be like Groundhog Day in my house every single day. You just do the same thing. You eat the same food. You stay in your miserable job. You hang out with friends you don't really like. And you probably complain because you want to change, but you don't really know how to change. But you don't have any courage to change either. You just make the same choices and you get the same results. I think I'm kind of thankful that my parents are like that because once I recognized it, I was like, this isn't for me. This doesn't work. I don't want to complain about the same things 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I don't want to keep making the same decisions. I don't want to keep doing the same thing. I don't want to stay in a job that I hate. I don't want to live in a place that I can't stand. I don't want to keep doing the same thing expecting different results. That's like the very definition of insanity, right? The problem is that when it comes to change, nobody wants to be uncomfortable. I live that every day too, because there are some things that I'm like, yes, let's change it. Let's do it. I have a fear of being on live videos. I don't want to do that. That's fine. Let's figure out how to do it. And the more that you do it, the more that you get comfortable with it. And really, it's not really that big of a deal anymore, right? When you're doing them every single day, you remember the fear. And maybe sometimes like right before you go live, it's like, ugh, this stinks. But then you get over it and you get used to it, right? But I live with that fear in other areas of my life and it irritates me because it's like, I've done bigger things than this. I've made some big accomplishments and I want to push past the fear and I want something better for myself. I don't want to keep doing the same things every single day. I don't want to keep living the same fear. I don't want to keep reliving the same voices in my head of people who are telling me that you're not good enough and that you don't belong and that you'll never be anything. My grandma, this is a really sad story, but it's true. My grandma has told me multiple times to my face, you'll never be anything. You'll never make it in life because you're not good with people. You'll never make it in life because you say that you don't like people. You'll never make it in life because you don't want to go flirt with the guy in the grocery store. And who do you think you are that you wouldn't go out with the guy in the grocery store? And I remember looking at my grandma saying, I deserve better. I'm not going to go flirt with a guy in the grocery store who's 45 years old and still works in the grocery store because that's just it. And there's nothing wrong with working in a grocery store. Let me be clear about that. I worked at Walmart for 4 years. I know that it's a difficult job and I appreciate the people who do the job. But the thing is that there are some people, like my friend, who are okay doing the same thing. They have no dreams or ambitions in their life. They just want to keep doing the same thing. One of my friends at work is the same way. He complains about his job. He talks about wanting to do something different, but he never takes any action. And so he just lives the same miserable life every single day. And he'll complain about it, but he doesn't want to change it. he won't take the action to make any changes. And for me, that's like, listen, I'll complain for a while, but then it's like, let's figure this out. I need a plan. I need to do something. I can't just keep complaining. I'm annoying myself with all the complaining that I'm doing. So like, I need a plan. We need to get moving. What's the next step? What do we have to do? How do we make the changes? So there's a lot of examples of scarcity mindset, right? One of those is, I can't get a new job. There aren't any jobs for me. I've said that a million times. But a lot of it comes down to, I'm not good at interviewing because I don't believe that I want this job. That's a lot of it. It's like this whole energy and attitude of, I don't want this job. This is not the job for me. My mom was recently let go from her job. She's a nurse. And she was panicked about finding a new job, which she found a new job in a week, which is normal for her. But the job that she had been let go of, and it wasn't her fault, the company was like restructuring. She worked for the corporate office of a hospice company, and they were like, they had a new CEO, and so they were firing all the old people and hiring their own people. That job that she had, she worked from home, and she'd worked from home for a couple of years, and she basically set her own hours and kind of just made her own rules, right? And she didn't want to go to work in a facility again, because she has to be on call, and she's getting a little bit older, and she really doesn't need to be getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, going to handle issues. And so I told her, you need to get on like Indeed and look for remote jobs, because there are tons of remote jobs now, even for nurses. And she wouldn't go on Indeed and even search for jobs because she just has this belief there are no remote jobs available. Even though I told her, and I even showed her, I'm like, listen, this is the website. Here's the search bar. Here are the words that you put in. And she's like, no, nobody's going to hire me, so why even apply for the jobs? I'm like, well, if you don't apply for the jobs, you're pretty much saying that you don't want them, right? It's the belief that's holding you back without even asking anybody for the jobs, without even showing up and saying, hi, I'm a nurse. I have 20 years of experience. I want a remote job. Of course, they're not going to hire. They're not going to come find you. They're not going to come to your house. You have to show up and say, hey, I'm available. Another one of these beliefs about scarcity is all the good guys are taken, or all the good girls, whatever you're interested in. So many people have that belief, right? That there are no guys out there. There's nobody out there for me. They're all taken. And if you don't make yourself available, if you're not even open to the idea that there could be somebody out there, then you're closing the door before you've even opened it, right? You're not, just like with my mom, if you don't apply for the job, you're not going to get it. So much of scarcity and fear really runs our life. And like we talked about with energy, you attract what you put out. So not only are you looking for the red car, right? But when you're looking for it, you're attracting more of them. So maybe you do see more of them, even though there really wasn't that many, because of the energy that you're putting out. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. And I'm not quite sure that I've wrapped my whole brain around it yet, because it's this big concept that's so much different than what I've ever thought about or what I was led to believe was true. I was kind of just taught that, like, listen, life is what you make it, life isn't fair. You just get what you get. And kind of this, like, hybrid of luck and then a belief in God, which I do believe in God, but if that doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. You can believe in the universe or whatever it is that you believe in. But it's kind of like this hybrid of like you just get what you get, but then if you pray, then some good things can come to you. Sometimes. They don't always come to everybody though. But then I'm reading this book that's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the energy that we have. And when you change your energy to have a more abundant view of life, and it's kind of like, you know, people talk about when you want something, so you put it out there in the universe and then it just comes to you. It's like Gabby Bernstein says, and so it is, right? So if you say, I want to sell 1 million books, then Gabby says, and so it is. It's going to happen. You have to believe that it's going to happen. And when you believe it, then it comes to you. It's very much the same thing. And the basis of that really is to step out of fear and into abundance, to say, I'm not going to be looking for the negative things. I'm not going to be afraid that there are no opportunities out there for me. I'm not going to be afraid that I can't get a new job. I'm not going to be afraid that all of the good guys are taken. I'm not going to continue in those beliefs, because those beliefs that you've had, they've brought you this far, right? Is this all that there is? Is this what you want? There's this movie that we used to watch. So one of my mom's favorite movies. It's called As Good as It Gets. It has like Jack Nicholson. I forget who the other guy is. Greg Kinnear, I think. And there's a point in the movie, the guy, Jack Nicholson, is kind of a crazy dude in the movie. And there's a point where he's in his psychiatrist's office trying to convince his psychiatrist that he needs to talk to him even though he doesn't have an appointment. And so they're walking through the waiting room of the psychiatrist's office, and Jack Nicholson looks at them and he's like, what if this is as good as it gets? I always think about that when I get to those points in my life where I'm like irritated with myself, because it's like, is this it? Is this all that there is to life? Is this all that I wanted? Is this what I signed up for? I'm not happy with this. I have these ideas and these visions of the future that's like, it could be so much better than this. I know that it can. I can be better as a person. My life can be so much better. And if my belief is what's holding me back, then how do I change the belief, right? How do I fix that? And when I learned that being willing to change is the biggest thing that you can do, I was like, that's too good to be true. That voice in my head is like my dad's voice saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But then what I did was I started thinking, I'm going to be willing. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be open to people giving me compliments. And when somebody gives me a compliment, I'm going to say thank you. And I'm going to say, I appreciate you. Because somebody said to me, I appreciate you. And I was like floored. Like, nobody's ever said that to me before. That's one of the best compliments that I've ever gotten. So I want to give that back to other people. I want to give gratitude and appreciation. I want to see what it is that I need, and I want to give that back to other people as well. It really does change an awful lot, because when you start thinking, okay, I'm going to be open to abundance. I'm going to be open to happiness. I'm going to be open to love, even if it's just loving myself, which I say just, that's actually a really big thing, right? But what happens is when you get when you decide you're going to be open, you get all this resistance. All the back talk starts in your head. And then that always seems to be the time when something happens, like people on Instagram are like, oh my God, you're the worst thing in the world. And if you're like me, it's like, hey, that's my biggest fear. Why did that come up right now? Right when I decided to be brave. Right when I decided to love myself even more. Right when I'm taking this big leap into believing in myself a lot more than what I did before. That's funny. That's funny that that would come up right now. I was listening to Gabby Bernstein's podcast, and she has these cards that she pulls. And it was really good timing. It's one of those things that it's like divine intervention. The card was, I had to go find the card because I'm like, I need this card. It says, find a deeper meaning and personal growth amid the discomfort. So yesterday, where all these people are like attacking me, and my first instinct is to take all of it totally personally and make it all about me personally. It's like, hold on, what's the bigger meaning here? What could actually be going on? Maybe that's just part of the resistance. Maybe I've put those beliefs out so much that that's what's coming back to me. Maybe I believed them so hard that when somebody says them, then it's like, yes, that's true. Of course that's true, because that's already what I believe. But if I actually believed that it wasn't true and somebody said that to me, I would just dismiss it right away. It would be like, that's not true. I mean, if somebody said to me, your hair is bright red, I would be like, what? Are you blind? It's not bright red. It's kind of stripy looking, because the poor lady who did it, she doesn't understand blending things. But if you already believe that, your hair is red, and somebody says your hair is red, you're like, I know. Which was kind of what happened, right? Somebody called me a fraud, and I already had that belief, and so I was like, I know. Rather than like, what? That's not true. I know that's not true. It's all about what you believe. And the energy, it comes back to you, right? So I said that today was supposed to be about happiness, and we ended up talking a lot more about scarcity. But happiness it's the same way. When you're looking for happiness, you're going to see happiness. And a lot of times with happiness, we have this belief that happiness comes from outside of us. A lot of us get stuck on this belief because this is like the very foundation of marketing. We grew up watching television commercials that says, hey, if you drive this car, you'll be happy. Hey, if you wear these jeans, you'll be happy. Hey, if you drink Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola is happiness, right? You watch their commercials and you're like, man, those people look happy. And all of these people in marketing and these big companies that are trying to sell you things, they spend billions of dollars every single year researching how to get people to buy things. And a lot of it comes back to subliminal messages about yourself. Messages about how you're not worth anything unless you drink Coca-Cola, right? You're not happy unless you have these certain type of makeup, right? There's no way that you can experience happiness unless you drive this particular car. Your life will be so much better. And we buy into a lot of these beliefs. You know how we started talking about from the ages of 0 to 7 years old, we soak up everything that people tell us. And a lot of us get stuck in front of the TV at that age. We learn the habits of the people around us. So if your parents are constantly watching TV, if your kids are constantly watching TV, then you're watching TV. I remember when my niece was young, her mom was not very good at teaching her things like manners and how to be quiet and things. So she was difficult to control when she was young. And when we went out to dinner or we went out in public, the best way to get her to be quiet was to hand her your phone. And so she learned how to use phones. She learned different apps. She learned social media at very young age. And I'm sure that that has a profound effect on people. That, people talk about how when you're looking at social media all the time, you feel less than the people that are there. And it's easy to get wrapped up in the pictures that are on social media, the videos that your friends are sharing. And it's even in the moment, even if you have that idea in your head that this is their highlight reel, this isn't like reality, it's easy to start comparing yourself and to feel less than. A perfect example. I had the opportunity in January of 2020, before the pandemic. I know that's hard to remember. My favorite band, which I talk about a lot, is New Kids on the Block. You can see their pictures back here. They announced that they were doing a show at Fenway Park, and they made the announcement in January of 2020, and they went to some radio stations here in Boston. And so I called in sick to work and showed up at this radio station hoping to see them. And I was also hoping that like not too many people would be there, and there really wasn't. There was like 4 people there, which was great because I got to meet the guys and talk to them without all the pressure of meet and greet, without a bunch of other people there. And it was one of the best experiences that I've had. But we caught them as they were walking into the building, and they were super nice and stopped to take selfies with us. And I have this selfie that's one of the few pictures of myself that I absolutely love, with Jordan. And I don't even, I don't know if I can show it to you. We'll see if you can see it. It's this super cute picture, right? He's smiling. It looks kind of weird because of the light that I have. But he's smiling and it's like super cute, and I have this nice smile on my face. And so after it was over, I sent it to one of my friends, and she was like, "Oh my God, that's so cute. Like, tell me what happened. I need to know second by second every single thing that happened. It looks like you guys are having this amazing time. Was he nice? Like, tell me about his personality. Like, what is he really like outside of like being on stage and stuff?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll tell you exactly everything that happened." Second one, I handed him my phone. I don't even think I said anything to him. Second 2, he took the picture, and we were like leaning as he was taking the picture. Second 3, he handed my phone back to me. Second 4, he ran for his life inside of the building because he didn't want to take pictures with anybody else. So that was like 4 seconds. I think the whole thing was legitimately less than 10 seconds. She was like, "What? That's not what it looks like based on the picture." She's like, "It looks like he's one of your old friends." I'm like, I know. Pictures are like super deceiving, aren't they? It was legitimately less than 10 seconds. We don't think about that, though, when we see pictures on social media. We see pictures of people together and we like, "Oh, they're having such a great time." And you get that whole fear of missing out on having a good time, when in reality, it could have been that they were arguing or that they were both having a terrible time. But in 3 seconds or 4 seconds, you can lean in to take this fantastic picture, and you can tell everybody this story of how it was the best time of your life, you know? And who were they not to believe it? Like, why wouldn't they believe it? And my friend was telling me, like, you shouldn't tell people that that was like 4 minutes, because you could make up this great story, or 4 seconds. She's like, you can make up this great story and it could be like the greatest thing ever. I'm like, now, do you see why I don't believe all the stories that people tell? Because a lot of them are just stories. And there isn't really a whole lot of truth to them. So we believe that happiness is an outside job. And a lot of times, we've been taught that Happiness comes from if you have this thing. If you have a new iPhone, if you have a nicer car, if you have a bigger house, you'll be happy. I thought too, for the longest time, that if I had more money, I would be happy, right? I made $45,000 a year, I think, when I worked in marketing, which is not a lot. Or when I worked as a marketing manager for, as a PR manager for a NASCAR driver, I made $45,000 a year. It's not a lot of money. People used to look at me and go, oh, you make like so much money. You have to make so much money if you're working with NASCAR drivers all the time. And I'm like, no, they make money. Not all of them pay their people very well. But then I moved to Boston and now I make twice as much money as that. And I was like, that would be a lot of money. Back then I was like, man, if I could make twice this much money, I would be happy. Now I make twice as much money and I'm like, you know what? Not that much happier. Kind of have the same spending habits as I used to have. There's still that belief that I'm working on that's like, there's not enough. I don't have enough. I can't afford that. Doesn't matter what that is. It's like, I can't afford it. Jackie says, I thought that's what I had that same thought about that picture. Yeah. It's funny how pictures can be so deceiving, right? But the thing about happiness is that it doesn't really come from outside, right? And there are people who have done studies about this, like doctors who, I heard about this study, which I wish I could tell you the doctor. I don't have that memorized and I didn't write it down. But he did this study of, he brought a whole bunch of people together and he said, okay, what do you think is going to make you happy? And they're like, a nicer car, a bigger house, and all these things. So he gave them those things for a week. And when they come back, he's like, okay, are you happier now? And they're like, not really. I don't really feel any different than what I did before. So then he's like, okay, this next week, every single day, I want you to help somebody. Even if it's something simple, even if it's just like opening the door for somebody, or if you're in the grocery store and you see somebody who's reaching for something that, they're not quite tall enough, grab it for them. Like something simple, just help somebody every single day. So after a week of doing that, they come back and they're like, I feel a lot happier than what I used to. It feels good to help people. It feels good to put something good out there in the world. So happiness it's an inside job. And like we talked about before as well, it takes work to be able to sustain it because we're so used to this scarcity mindset. We're so used to living in fear. We've been so conditioned to complain about things that it's difficult. When you want to make a change, it's not just like, okay, I'm going to be happy today. You can't just fake it till you make it because you feel weird and you feel uncomfortable and you're like, you know what? I don't want to feel weird. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm totally fine not being happy. I'll just accept not being happy. I'll just live my little small miserable life. And that's fine because it's better to do that than to be uncomfortable. But the thing about it is that voice inside of you that's telling you that you deserve more, that you need more, that you want more, it's not going to go away. It's going to be there. Whether you decide to start making the changes now or a year from now or 10 years from now is completely up to you. But you have to think about if you decide to keep putting it off and keep putting it off until you feel like it, first of all, you're never going to feel like it. And how much time are you going to waste waiting to feel like it? How much time are you going to waste doing the same thing over and over and over again? I know that most of us really haven't been taught how to support ourselves. We haven't been taught how to love ourselves. We haven't been taught how to be happy, right? So if you go through my program that's called This Is Me, I'm going to give you this immersive experience to help you learn all of these things, to help you learn how to support yourself, to help you learn how to believe in yourself, how to cheer for yourself when nobody else will. But if you don't go through my program, I know that we're running a little bit short on time, but I want to give you a couple of things that will help you. So the first thing that you have to do is be willing to be uncomfortable. True growth only comes from being uncomfortable, right? You have to be willing to push yourself, even if you feel like you're not ready, even if you feel like you can't do it. That's the only way that you can make progress. The next thing is to take action. A lot of times we get stuck in planning mode. We think that we can plan something enough that it will be perfect. And we get stuck planning. I've been stuck planning things for like 10 years. And I didn't realize that it was 10 years. It's just that I'm planning to do this thing, but if I plan it perfectly, then I won't mess it up. And it'll be perfect when I do it, because I don't want to do anything that I'm not good at, right? But you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, and you have to be willing to not be good at things. The best, fastest way to get the results that you want is to take action, to just do something. Stop planning and start moving forward. Be a C student. I know we've been taught that you need to be an A student, that you need to be good at stuff before you do it. But if you shift that mindset into being a C student, then it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it's done, that's totally fine. As long as you're taking action, you'll keep moving forward. And the last thing is that you have to learn to think about things differently. You have to be willing to think about things differently. You have to be open to thinking about things differently, right? Just because you grew up with things being a certain way, that doesn't mean that that's how they are for everybody. Just because you were taught how to love people a certain way, that doesn't mean that that's how everybody loves people, right? I was taught that if you do the dishes and you clean the floors and you wash all of the clothes and you make dinner, then you're lovable, you're acceptable, you are worthy of love. And so that taught me that I have to do things in order for people to love me. But that doesn't mean that that's how everybody loves. That doesn't mean that it's how it's supposed to be, right? It took me years to learn that love is supposed to be freely given. It's not something that should be earned. So before we go, I have we have a winner to announce, right? For doing the homework. But I just wanted to say real quick, we're so used to being okay. When somebody asks us, how are you? We usually just say okay, right? I called my friend last night and she was like, how's it going? And it felt really weird, and I had to stop and say, well, it's been really rough actually, and I'm really not okay right now. It's so normal for us to just figure things out, to just go it along, and to think, I'll be fine, I'll figure it out, I don't need any help, I don't need anybody because I'm fine. It'll be fine, everything is fine. But if you look at what's going on in the world right now, it's not fine. People aren't fine. Nothing is okay. But you have to admit that you're not okay and that you can't figure it all out. That's the only way that you're going to start really searching for answers and get the answers that you need. How many people do you know that are actually happy? How many people do you know that feel like they're fulfilled in their life, that are living their passion, or that they even know what their passion is? How many people do you know who are like my friends that I told you about, who are just okay being unhappy, who have just resigned themselves to this miserable life and they really don't even know how to be happy? There aren't a lot of people out there that are actually really happy. It's such a rare thing that when we find those people, we put them on a pedestal, right? We admire them. It's like, wow, I wish I could be that brave. I wish I could do that. But I want to be around those people so that I can feel more of their happiness. You can be that, though. You can be happy. You can be one of those people who knows what they want out of life and is living their passion. You can be one of those people who really steps into real happiness and not just momentary joy. You don't have to say that it's okay when it's really not okay. All it takes is 20 seconds of courage to say, I'm not okay. And I don't want to do this by myself. I need some help. You can believe in yourself and you can totally be brave. Imagine the version of yourself 3 months from now that believed in yourself and said, I want to make a change. I want to be happy. I want to be brave. I want to choose me. Imagine how happy she would be. Imagine her thanking you for making that decision. I think about the version of me that was thinking about starting a blog, the one that wanted to be a writer, that could never admit that she wanted to be a writer. And I'm so thankful now, almost 3 years later, that that version of me was actually brave enough to say, okay, I'm going to do this. Even if it's not perfect, even if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to do it. I'm going to choose me. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm so thankful. It made all the difference in the world. All right, so we have a winner for the homework last night. On day 1, you told me that I could call you Violet. So Violet Aranda? I probably said your name wrong. I'm so sorry. Anyway, you won this beautiful Ray Dunn mug that says grateful on it and a full scholarship to my program too. So I'm so excited for you. So happy to have you in my program. It's going to be an amazing 12 weeks. And I can't wait to get started. Today was supposed to be the last day of our challenge, right? But I kind of already blew the secret and added all of the events for the next 7 days, really. Tomorrow, I'm going to be back at the same time to answer any questions that you guys have. I posted a post in the group that has questions on it. Somebody already left a question. So I'm going to answer questions. I've had some direct messaged to me as well. So if you want to send your questions to me directly, you can, or you can send them, put them on the post, or you can send them live if you want to send them live. So I'll be back tomorrow, and then do I have it? I do. Sunday we're going to talk about how to have self-love abundance. Monday we're going to kind of review what we've already been over this week. So Monday we're going to talk about the power of what you believe. Tuesday, stepping into your true self. Wednesday, how to lift your energy when you're having a bad day. Thursday, you deserve better. And Friday, if there's anybody who has any more questions, I'm going to answer your questions. So, all right, that's what I have for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I so much appreciate every single one of you for showing up and participating. You guys are absolutely amazing. And happy Friday. Hopefully I will see you again tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed that workshop as much as I did. Before we go, I want to let you know again that you can still join these workshops live. Go to infjwoman.com/hereforthis to get access to them right now. There will be a new podcast episode every day this week, so make sure that you check them all out. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon. So you just watched that video, and I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you want some more amazing information about INFJs, check out these videos right now. I'll see you there.